Elderly man receives unexpected inheritance from unknown benefactor. His reaction is priceless as he discovers the hidden intentions behind the gift. Silas Abernathy sat in his small, cluttered living room, surrounded by the quiet that had become his only companion over the years. The sun streamed through the dusty window, illuminating the weathered brown envelope that lay on the table before him. It had arrived that morning, its edges frayed and worn, as if it carried the weight of years. Silas picked it up with trembling hands, curiosity mingling with a hint of dread. What could this possibly be? He carefully tore open the envelope, his heart racing. Inside was a letter, typed neatly on crisp paper. As he read the words, confusion washed over him. "Dear Mr. Abernathy," it began, "you are the beneficiary of a significant inheritance from Ezekiel Thorne." Ezekiel Thorne? Silas muttered to himself, his brow furrowing. He had never heard the name before. Was this some kind of cruel joke? A mistake? The thoughts swirled in his mind like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. He glanced at the letter again, searching for a clue, a hint that this was all just a misunderstanding. Memories of his late wife, Margaret, flooded into his mind. They had shared a life filled with simple joys and quiet moments. He could almost hear her laughter, feel her warm presence beside him. Would she have found this news exciting or absurd? They had always talked about dreams, traveling, exploring new places. But those dreams had slipped away as life settled into a routine of gardening and solitude. "What does this mean for me?" Silas whispered, the weight of the letter heavy in his hands. Could this inheritance spark a new purpose in his life? Or would it only serve to remind him of the emptiness left by Margaret's passing? He sat back in his chair, the letter still clutched tightly. Silas looked around the room, filled with the memories of a life once vibrant but now reduced to a cycle of watering plants and watching the seasons change. "Is there more to my life than this?" he pondered aloud. The silence that followed seemed to mock him. As he gazed out the window, he wondered if this unexpected inheritance could offer him a chance to step out of his comfort zone. What if it leads to something more, he thought, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. Yet, fear quickly followed. What if it changes everything, and I'm not ready for that? Who was Ezekiel Thorne? He asked the empty room, his voice barely above a whisper. The name echoed back to him, the syllables hanging in the air like a mystery waiting to be unraveled. Silas felt a strange pull toward this unknown man. Why had he chosen him? Tears formed in the corners of his eyes as he thought of Margaret. "You always wanted to see the world," he murmured, the lump in his throat growing. Could this inheritance be a way to honor her dreams? Would it allow him to reconnect with the passions they once shared? He stood up, clutching the letter, and walked to the window. The garden outside bloomed with life, vibrant colors dancing in the sunlight. Maybe it's time to wake up, he thought, the words forming a quiet resolution in his mind. Maybe it's time to find out who Ezekiel Thorne really was. As he stood there, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and apprehension, Silas knew one thing. This letter held the key to something bigger than himself. It was not just a notification of wealth. It was a call to adventure, a chance to step into the unknown and discover what lay beyond the confines of his solitary life. What would he uncover about Ezekiel? And how would it change him? The questions lingered in the air, inviting him to take the first step into a new chapter of his life. Silas Abernathy sat at his small wooden desk, the unexpected letter still open before him. The words about his inheritance from Ezekiel Thorne echoed in his mind, but a deeper question now pulled at him. Who was Ezekiel Thorne? Silas felt an urge to learn more about the man whose kindness had somehow reached across time and space to touch his life. With a determined heart, Silas stood up. "I must find out more," he murmured to himself. He grabbed his old hat and stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun. The town was small, and its streets were lined with familiar faces and stories waiting to be uncovered. His first stop was the town hall, a place filled with dusty records and forgotten memories. As he entered, the warm scent of aged paper welcomed him. Silas approached the clerk behind the counter. "Excuse me, could I look up some information about Ezekiel Thorne?" he asked, his voice steady but tinged with anticipation. The clerk, an elderly woman with kind eyes, raised an eyebrow. "Ezekiel? Oh, he was quite the character. Not many people knew him well. He kept to himself mostly." She paused, then continued. "But he helped many without wanting credit for it. A good man, if you ask me." "Do you have any records of his life?" Silas inquired, leaning closer, eager to hear more. The clerk nodded and shuffled through some papers. "Let me see what I can find." After a moment, she pulled out a worn file. "Here, this has some information about him. He ran a small charity out of his home, helped people with food, clothes, even offered shelter to those in need." As Silas read through the pages, a sense of admiration grew within him. Ezekiel had lived a quiet life dedicated to others. Silas felt a connection to this man who had chosen a path of selflessness. "He sounds like a wonderful person," Silas said softly, almost to himself. Leaving the town hall, Silas wandered the streets, his mind racing with thoughts of Ezekiel's legacy. He stopped by the local cafe, where he often shared small talk with neighbors. Today, he felt a different purpose. "Have you all heard about Ezekiel Thorne?" he asked the group seated at a table. The chatter around him paused. A woman named Clara, who had known Ezekiel from childhood, spoke up. "Yes, he was a true gem, always helping others, but he never wanted thanks. Just a quiet man with a big heart." "Did he have any family?" Silas asked, curiosity piqued. Clara shook her head. "No, he lived alone. People say he chose that life to focus on helping others. I always admired him for that." As Silas listened, he felt a mix of emotions. He was honored to inherit from someone who seemed so genuine, yet he questioned whether he was worthy of such generosity. "What would he think of me accepting this inheritance?" Silas pondered aloud. "Am I deserving of his kindness?" Clara placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Ezekiel would want you to use it for good, Silas. He believed in helping others. If you can do that, then you honor him." Her words struck a chord deep within Silas. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders, but it felt lighter somehow. Perhaps accepting this inheritance was not about him at all. It was about continuing Ezekiel's legacy. As he walked home, Silas thought of how he could make a difference. He envisioned using the funds to support the youth in town, just like Ezekiel had supported those in need. "I could create a scholarship," he whispered, excitement bubbling within him. A way to give back, just like he did. With each step, Silas felt a shift inside him. The loneliness he had carried for so long began to fade. He was no longer just Silas Abernathy, the solitary old man. He could become a part of something larger. Maybe, just maybe, he could honor both Ezekiel and his late wife through this newfound purpose. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the town, Silas returned home, his heart filled with determination. The mystery of Ezekiel Thorne had opened a door to a new chapter in his life, one that promised connection, purpose, and perhaps even a little joy. Silas Abernathy sat quietly in his garden, the sun casting a warm glow on his weathered hands as he tended to the flowers. But today, the vibrant colors around him seemed dull compared to the storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. He held the letter from Ezekiel Thorne tightly, the paper crinkling slightly as he gripped it. Memories of his late wife, Clara, flooded his mind, bringing both a smile and a deep ache to his heart. Clara always wanted to travel, he murmured to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. She dreamed of seeing the world, Paris, Rome, even the mountains in Colorado. Silas sighed, looking down at the ground where his garden had once been a place of joy and laughter. Now, It felt like a reminder of what he had lost. He leaned against the old oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. How did I let it all slip away? He pondered, feeling the weight of solitude pressing down on him. The dreams he once had seemed to fade into the background, overshadowed by the routine of daily life. He had spent countless hours tending to his plants, but now he realized that he had been tending to his grief more than anything else. A tear rolled down his cheek as he remembered Clara's laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about their future adventures. "I miss you, love," he whispered, feeling the void her absence created. "I wish you were here to guide me now." The garden had been their sanctuary, a place where they had shared hopes and dreams. Now, it felt empty without her presence. As he wiped his tears, Silas's thoughts turned to Ezekiel Thorne. This stranger, who had lived on the fringes of society and chose to help others in silence, had left him an inheritance. "What would you want me to do with this, Ezekiel?" he questioned aloud, as if waiting for an answer from the wind. "I never asked for this. I never expected it." The warmth of the sun began to feel more comforting, as if encouraging him to reflect deeper. Silas thought about how he could honor both Clara's dreams and Ezekiel's legacy. Maybe I can do something meaningful, he contemplated, feeling a flicker of hope igniting within him. What if I used this inheritance to help others achieve their dreams? He imagined a scholarship fund, a way to give back to the community and inspire the youth to chase their aspirations. "I could create a path for them," he said, his voice gaining strength, "a way for them to see the world, just like Clara wanted to." The thought filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. "Silas!" a voice called from the fence. It was Mrs. Thompson, his neighbor, peering over with a curious expression. "What are you mumbling about out there? You seemed deep in thought." "Just thinking about Clara and this inheritance I received," he replied, wiping his eyes quickly. "I'm trying to decide what to do with it." Mrs. Thompson nodded knowingly. Inheritance can be a heavy burden, but perhaps it's an opportunity too. What do you think she would want you to do? Silas paused, considering her words. She would want me to make a difference, I think. She always cared so much for others. Then why not use it to help those who need it? She suggested, her eyes shining with encouragement. You have so much wisdom to share. You could inspire so many young people. That's what I've been thinking, Silas admitted, feeling a swell of excitement. I could start a scholarship fund, give them a chance to pursue their dreams, just like Clara and I once dreamed of. Mrs. Thompson smiled warmly. That sounds like a wonderful idea, Silas. You have a big heart. I'm sure Clara would be proud of you. As she walked away, Silas felt a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time in years, he envisioned a future that was not defined by loss, but by hope. He could feel Clara's spirit urging him on, pushing him to honor not just her dreams, but also the legacy of kindness that Ezekiel Thorne had left behind. With this new clarity, Silas returned to his garden, a smile breaking through the sadness. He could see the flowers blooming vibrantly, a reflection of the possibilities that lay ahead. It was time to embrace new beginnings, and he was ready to take the first step. After days of deep thought, Silas Abernathy finally reached a decision. He sat in his garden, surrounded by the blooming flowers that his late wife had loved so much. The sun cast a warm glow over the petals, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Silas felt a strange mix of peace and determination. He would accept the inheritance, but he would not keep it for himself. Instead, he wanted to use it to help others. I could create a scholarship fund, he said to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. A way to give back to the youth in this town. They deserve a chance to follow their dreams, just like I once did. With each word, he felt a weight lift off his shoulders. Silas remembered the dreams he had shared with his wife, the places they had talked about visiting, and the hope they had for their future. But life had taken a different turn, leading him to a quiet existence filled with solitude. Now, he had a chance to change that. The next day, Silas gathered his courage and made his way to the town hall. The old building stood proudly in the center of town, its walls echoing with memories of community gatherings and celebrations. As he stepped inside, he felt a flutter of nerves in his stomach. He had never been one to speak in front of a crowd, but he knew this was important. "Good evening, everyone," Silas began, his voice shaky but clear. He looked out at the small crowd gathered before him, a mix of familiar faces and young hopefuls. "I have something to share with you all." As he spoke, Silas felt the warmth of the community surrounding him. He told them about Ezekiel Thorne, the man who had left him the inheritance, and how he had decided to use it to create a scholarship fund. "I want to help the youth of our town," he continued. "I want to provide opportunities for those who have dreams and aspirations, just like my late wife and I once had." A young girl in the front row raised her hand. "Mr. Abernathy, what kind of dreams do you want to help with?" she asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Silas smiled, encouraged by her question. "Any dream, dear, whether it's going to college, learning a trade, or even traveling to places you've always wanted to see. I want to give you the chance to chase those dreams." The crowd erupted into murmurs, excitement filling the air. Silas could see the spark in their eyes, the hope for brighter futures. It made his heart swell with joy. He had not felt this alive in years. As he concluded his announcement, Silas felt a rush of fulfillment. "I believe we can make a difference together," he said, his voice stronger now. "Let's honor Ezekiel's legacy of kindness and make sure that his generosity continues to help others long after we are gone." The applause that followed was loud and genuine. Silas's heart raced as he took in the faces around him. Young people, filled with dreams, were looking at him as if he were their guiding star. It was a feeling he had long forgotten. After the meeting ended, Silas was approached by several young people. One of them, a tall boy with bright eyes, stepped forward. "Mr. Abernathy, this is amazing. Thank you for doing this. I've always wanted to be an engineer, and this could really help me." Silas felt a swell of pride. "You're welcome, my boy. Just remember to work hard and never give up on your dreams." As he walked home that evening, the sun setting behind him, Silas felt a lightness in his step. He had made a decision that not only changed his life, but could change the lives of many. He realized that in giving to others, he had found a new purpose. The shadows of his past began to fade, replaced by the warmth of hope and community. Silas knew that this was just the beginning. The inheritance was more than money. It was a chance to create a legacy of his own, one that would carry forward the dreams of both his wife and Ezekiel Thorne. And for the first time in a long while, Silas felt truly alive. The day of the scholarship fund's launch finally arrived, and Silas Abernathy stood in front of the small crowd gathered in the town hall, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The sun shone brightly outside, casting warm rays through the windows, illuminating the faces of the young people who filled the room. They were filled with hope and dreams, and Silas couldn't help but smile at their energy. He cleared his throat, gripping the edges of the podium. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice slightly shaky. "This scholarship fund is not just about money. It's about dreams. It's about opportunities." He glanced at the eager faces before him, remembering the dreams he once held. "When I was your age, I had dreams too. I wanted to travel, to see the world, but life took me down a different path." A young girl in the front row raised her hand. "What did you want to see?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Silas paused for a moment, caught off guard by the question. "Oh, there were so many places," he replied, a smile spreading across his face. "I wanted to see the mountains, the oceans, and even the busy streets of big cities. But I never got the chance." He looked around the room, his heart swelling with the realization that these young people had the opportunity to chase their dreams. "That's why I want you all to take this chance. Don't let life's routine hold you back." The crowd listened intently, and Silas continued. This fund is named after Ezekiel Thorne, a man who devoted his life to helping others. I want to honor his legacy and my late wife, who always pushed me to follow my dreams." His voice grew stronger as he spoke. "Together, we can create a community where dreams are nurtured, not forgotten." After his speech, Silas stepped down from the podium, feeling a rush of fulfillment. He began to hand out the first scholarships, one by one. Each handshake felt like a warm connection, a reminder of the impact he could have. "Congratulations," he said to a young man named Marcus, who beamed with joy. "Thank you, Mr. Abernathy. I can't believe this is happening," Marcus exclaimed, his excitement infectious. "Believe it," Silas replied, grinning. "You deserve it. Use this opportunity to pursue what you love." As Silas continued, he saw a girl named Emily, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I never thought I'd get this," she said softly, tears glistening in her eyes. Silas knelt down to meet her gaze. "You have a bright future ahead, Emily. Don't doubt yourself. This is just the beginning." He handed her the certificate, feeling the weight of her dreams resting in his hands. The event culminated in a celebration of hope. Music played softly in the background, and laughter filled the air. Silas watched as the young recipients mingled, sharing their own stories and aspirations. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive and part of something greater than himself. As the day drew to a close, Silas stepped outside into the fresh air, his heart lighter than it had been in ages. He felt a sense of belonging, surrounded by the vibrant energy of youth and potential. "Mr. Abernathy," Marcus called out, running to catch up with him. "Can we talk about our projects? I want to make sure I do this right." "Of course," Silas said, his smile widening. "I'd love to help. Let's meet later this week. Together, we can brainstorm ideas." The young man nodded eagerly. "Yes, thank you." As he walked home, Silas reflected on the day's events. He realized that the inheritance had not only provided financial support, but had also given him a renewed sense of purpose. He had connected with the community in ways he never thought possible. Silas knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one filled with hope, connections, and the chance to inspire others. In the days following the scholarship fund's launch, Silas Abernathy felt a change within himself. He walked through the town, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The noise of children laughing and the chatter of neighbors surrounded him, wrapping him in a warm blanket of community. He began to notice how much he had missed these simple connections. At the local park, Silas spotted a group of young people gathered around a picnic table. They were the scholarship recipients, animatedly discussing their dreams. He approached them, a little hesitant, but filled with a newfound sense of purpose. "Mind if I join you?" Silas asked, a smile spreading across his face. "Of course, Mr. Abernathy," one of the girls exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "We were just talking about our plans for the summer." Silas took a seat and listened intently. The group spoke of internships, travel, and projects that excited them. Each story reminded him of the dreams he once held close to his heart. He felt an urge to share his experiences, to guide them along their paths. "Your dreams are wonderful," Silas said, his voice warm with encouragement. "When I was your age, I wanted to travel the world too. I had a map with pins marking all the places I wanted to see." "What stopped you from going?" asked a young man with bright eyes. Silas paused, memories flooding back. "Life took over, I suppose. I got caught up in routines and forgot to chase those dreams," he admitted, his gaze drifting to the horizon. "But it's never too late to start again." The young people nodded, understanding the weight of his words. They shared their fears and hopes openly, and Silas found joy in their honesty. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, he felt a connection forming with these young souls. Over the next few weeks, Silas became a regular at community events. He attended art shows, sporting events, and town meetings, each time greeted with warmth and enthusiasm. People recognized him not just as a solitary elder, but as a mentor and friend. One sunny afternoon, he organized a small gathering at his home. He invited the scholarship recipients, eager to share his garden, a place that had been his sanctuary for years. "Welcome to my little paradise," Silas said, opening the gate wide. The young people gasped at the sight of blooming flowers and lush greenery. "Wow, Mr. Abernathy, this is amazing," one girl exclaimed, bending down to smell a rose. Silas chuckled, pride swelling in his chest. "I always believed that a garden is like life. You have to nurture it, give it time, and it will bloom." As they settled on the patio with glasses of lemonade, Silas took a deep breath. "I want to help you pursue your dreams. I can share what I've learned over the years, the mistakes and successes. What do you say?" The group lit up with excitement. "That would be incredible," said a young man named Tyler. "I could use some advice on my art portfolio." "I need help with my college applications," another girl chimed in. Silas looked around at their eager faces, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over him. "Let's make a plan. We can meet once a week and tackle whatever you need help with." As the weeks turned into months, Silas found himself more alive than ever. He watched as these young individuals blossomed, their dreams taking shape with his guidance. They shared laughter, tears, and milestones, creating a bond that Silas had longed for. One evening, as they sat around a fire pit, roasting marshmallows, Silas reflected on his journey. "You know, I thought that inheritance was just money, but it turned out to be something much greater," he said, gazing at the flames. "It brought me back to life, helped me connect with all of you." "Thank you for believing in us, Mr. Abernathy," one of the girls said softly. "You've changed our lives." Silas smiled, feeling a warmth in his heart. "No, you've changed mine. We all need each other, no matter our age." As the stars twinkled above, Silas realized that life was not just about the end of dreams, but the beginning of new connections. In the twilight of his years, he had discovered that love, purpose, and community could flourish anew, bringing him joy and fulfillment he thought he had lost forever. Share this story if you believe that new connections can reignite our passions and transform our lives. Leave a comment about a time when you found joy in mentoring someone or being mentored, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one.